All right, let's dive in. Today, we're looking at how an ancient empire's desperate search for order didn't just build the nation, it actually gave birth to ideas and inventions that would go on to secretly shape our modern world. So, what do these three things have in common? It sounds like the beginning of a weird joke, right? But believe it or not, a philosophy of respect, a brutal emperor, and the very screen in front of you are all connected. And the answer isn't just some boring fact from a history textbook, it's an amazing story about how total chaos can spark world-changing innovation.
To find that answer, we've got to go way back, more than 2,000 years actually. We're heading to a time of such intense conflict that it forced the smartest people around to ask a really fundamental question. How in the world do you create peace when everything is fallen apart?
To really get why their solutions were so revolutionary, you first have to grasp just how bad things were. We're talking about centuries of brutal, non-stop warfare that literally tore a kingdom apart.
This era was called the time of the warring states. And it wasn't just one war. It was this long, drawn-out period where all these different states were constantly fighting for power. Society was a mess, and pretty much everyone, from scholars to rulers, was desperate to find a way to put things back together.
So out of all this chaos, three big philosophies popped up, and each one offered a totally different plan for how to build a stable society. This was a true battle of ideas.
First up, you've got legalism. This was let's call it the no-nonsense approach. Legalists basically believe that people are fundamentally selfish, so the only way to make them behave is with an iron fist, a super powerful government, really strict laws, and seriously harsh punishments if you step out of line.
On the complete other side of the spectrum, you had Confucianism. Confucius thought that people were naturally good, that you could teach them. For him, peace came from inside society itself, through respect and following a clear set of rules for how to behave. It all started with the family. If you respect your parents, that respect naturally grows to include your rulers, building a stable society from the bottom up.
And then there was Daoism, which offered a completely different path. Daoists looked at the situation and said, you know what? The problem isn't the people, it's all these rules from society and government. Their solution? Just withdraw. Live a simple life and try to get in sync with this natural universal force called the Tao, or the Way. Okay, what's so cool about this is how clearly you can see their different starting points. Legalism says people are wicked, so we need total control. Confucianism says people are good, so government should just lead by example. And Daoism says the government should pretty much just get out of the way entirely. Three totally different solutions to the exact same problem.
Now, for a long time, these were just theories, things that scholars would argue about. But history was about to take a very sharp turn. One man was going to pick one of these ideas and use it to build an empire.
See, a ruler was rising to power in the state of Qin, and he really had no time for moral debates or becoming one with nature. He needed a practical, powerful tool to conquer and unify the land, and he was about to find the perfect one.
That ruler was Qin Shi Huang, who would become the very first emperor of a unified China. And as the historian Syed Tahir Abbas points out, he went all in on legalism. He saw it as the perfect ideology to force all those warring states into one single centralized empire, with him at the very top.
And here's the key part. This wasn't just some abstract idea for him. The emperor used legalism like a practical toolkit. He standardized everything you can think of, one set of laws for everyone, one type of money, and even one single writing system for the whole empire. It was an absolute revolution in government control.
But make no mistake, this unification was brutal. The emperor's laws were incredibly harsh, and any dissent was punished severely. He famously tried to stamp out competing ideas by burning books and persecuting Confucian scholars. So yeah, unity was achieved, but it came at the cost of freedom.
And yet, out of this new unified China, an empire forged by a really harsh philosophy, came something completely different. It created the stability and resources for a legacy of just astounding technological genius.
These are what's known as the four great inventions of ancient China. And look, any one of these would be a huge deal on its own, but together they would completely reshape not just China, but the entire world.
So what's with this number? 120 kilos, or about 260 pounds? Well, before paper was invented, that's how much Emperor Qin had to read in official documents, every single day. They were written on these heavy bamboo strips. Can you imagine? It just perfectly shows why they were so desperate for a lighter, cheaper way to write things down. The invention of paper changed everything.
And of course, once you have paper, what's the next logical step? Printing. Now, we often think of Gutenberg and his printing press, right? But the very first dated printed book in the world came from China way back in 868 AD. That's almost 600 years earlier. This was a technology that let knowledge spread like never before.
The other two big inventions had pretty humble beginnings too. Gunpowder was actually discovered by alchemists and was first used for fireworks, and the magnetic compass started as a handy tool for sailors. But their impact? It was world-altering. Gunpowder would eventually revolutionize warfare, and the compass basically opened up the entire planet for exploration.
So when you put it all together, the philosophical debates, the brutal unification, and these incredible technological breakthroughs, you start to see the foundations of a legacy that goes far, far beyond China's borders.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. Centuries later, the English philosopher Francis Bacon argued that just 3 of these inventions, printing, gunpowder, and the compass, did more to change the world than any empire or any religion in history. That is the scale of the legacy we are talking about here.
Which brings us right back to that first question. From that ancient battle between order and freedom to the inventions that literally power our information age, the echoes of ancient China are all around us. And it kind of makes you wonder, right? What other ideas, born from moments of chaos, are influencing our world right now? In